If your birthday is this month, make sure to subscribe and leave a like, my friend. And tell me in the comments what topic you'd like to hear next.
April 1865. A gray uniformed general signs surrender papers at Appomattox Courthouse. 4 years of war end with his signature. 600,000 Americans lie dead across battlefields. One man's choice nearly tore a nation apart forever. His name, Robert Edward Lee. You know him as the Confederate commander. But who was the man behind that uniform? What made a soldier who bled for America suddenly turn against it? Tonight, we uncover the contradictions of a complicated legend born in violence. This isn't a story of simple heroes or villains. It's about a man caught between honor and ambition, duty and desire, loyalty and betrayal. A man whose decisions changed history and whose legacy still divides us. Let's journey back to the beginning. January 19th, 1807. Stratford Hall, Plantation, Virginia. A mansion overlooking the Potomac River. Robert Edward Lee enters a world of fading privilege. His father, Revolutionary War hero, Light Horse Harry Lee. But glory fades quickly. Bankruptcy looms dark. The family legend crumbles into dust. Young Robert watches his father flee creditors, hiding from shame and debt. The mansion must be sold immediately. They move to a cramped townhouse in Alexandria. The boy learns early. Reputation means nothing without money backing it. Pride cannot feed a hungry family. His mother, Anne Carter Lee, raises 6 children alone through hardship. She teaches Robert discipline, unwavering faith, absolute duty. Every morning begins with prayer. Every action requires permission first. The boy never rebels once. He becomes her caretaker, nursing her through chronic, debilitating illness. Picture this, a child carrying adult burdens. While other boys play, Robert manages household accounts, administers mother's medicine, reads scripture aloud nightly. Responsibility becomes his identity. The weight shapes his spine, straightens his posture, hardens his resolve. Childhood ends at age 10. 1825. Robert seeks escape through education and opportunity. West Point Military Academy accepts him. His only path from poverty to prestige restored. No inheritance waits for him here. No family fortune to claim someday. Only his disciplined mind and perfect conduct can restore the Lee name's tarnished glory. 4 years at West Point. Not a single demerit recorded against him. Perfect conduct. Perfect grades. Classmates call him the marble model. Cold, flawless, untouchable, inhuman. But perfection has a terrible cost. He never relaxes, never fails, never reveals weakness to anyone. The mask becomes his actual face. An instructor later recalls, "I watched Lee for abnormality, waiting for the crack. It never came. He seemed sculpted from stone rather than born from flesh. Was he exceptional or simply hollow inside?" The question haunts those who knew him best. Lee graduates second in his entire class. But here's what nobody asks. Was this excellence or merely performance? Did anyone truly know Robert Lee beneath the perfect surface? Or had the boy who nursed his mother disappeared, replaced by stone and obligation and unshakable control? 1829. Lieutenant Lee joins the Army Corps of Engineers. His early assignments take him to coastal Georgia fortifications, swamps, mosquitoes, brutal isolation. He builds defenses that will later face Union cannons in battle. War seems impossible then. America feels eternal and strong. He believes in the Union. That same year, he marries Mary Anna Randolph Custis. She's George Washington's step-great-granddaughter, American royalty. Lee becomes custodian of Mount Vernon's sacred legacy. Now, 2 founding fathers connect through him, Washington and his own disgraced father. The pressure to uphold both legacies consumes his every waking moment. 7 children follow in quick succession over the years. Lee loves them deeply, but sees them rarely, separated by obligation. He writes letters filled with affection, but returns home as a stranger to their lives. His son later writes, "We knew Papa loved us, but did he truly know us?" Think about that tragedy. A man so devoted to responsibility, he abandons actual family. He serves abstract concepts, honor, country, Virginia, while his children grow up fatherless. Later, he'll choose Virginia over Union. The pattern starts here. Abstraction defeats flesh and blood in Lee's calculating mind. 1846. War erupts with Mexico, America's aggressive expansion southward. Captain Lee finally faces combat after 17 years of peacetime engineering. He scouts enemy positions under heavy fire, maps impossible terrain, finds secret paths through mountains. General Winfield Scott calls him the very best soldier I ever saw. Veracruz to Mexico City. Lee doesn't sleep for 3 consecutive days during critical operations. He rides through enemy lines gathering intelligence alone. Bullets miss him by mere inches repeatedly. Colleagues call it bravery. Lee calls it obligation performed. But something awakens. Ambition he's suppressed for years burning bright. He receives 3 brevets for gallantry under fire. America celebrates its military heroes with parades. Lee returns to peacetime engineering work, harbors, fortifications, endless surveying. The routine feels suffocating now after tasting glory. Combat revealed something he didn't know existed within himself: hunger for command, for historical greatness. Did Mexico change Lee fundamentally? Did that taste of violence and glory poison his judgment later? The cautious engineer becomes the aggressive gambler. The patient builder becomes the reckless attacker. Mexico may have planted seeds that bloomed bloody at Gettysburg years later. 1852. West Point needs a new superintendent for its academy. The institution chooses Lee. He's 45, graying, still handsome, and imposing. Cadets respect his discipline, but fear his coldness deeply. He enforces every rule with perfect consistency. Yet his own son, Custis, studies there under him. Does the father bend rules? Never. Not one.
If your birthday is this month, make sure to subscribe and leave a like, my friend. And tell me in the comments what topic you'd like to hear next.
Custis receives no special treatment whatsoever. When other superintendents' sons break rules, Lee punishes them equally and publicly. The cadets whisper, "Old Lee has no heart beating." But privately, he writes his children tender letters filled with affection. 2 versions exist: the public stone, the private warmth and vulnerability. 1857. Mary's father dies unexpectedly. Lee inherits Arlington estate and 200 enslaved human beings. The will requires him to free them within 5 years maximum. But Lee delays repeatedly. He needs their unpaid labor to restore the estate's profitability and save his family's fortunes. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some enslaved people attempt escape to freedom. Lee has them captured, whipped publicly. One witness later testifies. Under oath, he ordered the wounds washed with brine, salt in open flesh. Lee never denies it happened. He believes in gradual emancipation, someday, somehow, but not yet. Not when his family needs money. Does this shock you? It should. The facade cracks here, revealing ugliness beneath. The man who seemed so honorable prioritizes wealth over freedom without hesitation. Historians debate his character still today, but the facts remain unchanged. He chose exploitation when liberation was legally required. Wesley Norris, enslaved at Arlington, recalled his escape attempt. "We were tied to posts. Lee stood watching as the overseer struck us. 50 lashes each. Then Lee ordered brine applied to our backs. The pain was beyond description. I carry those scars still." 1859. John Brown raids Harper's Ferry, attempting to spark massive slave rebellion. The government orders Colonel Lee to crush the uprising immediately. He leads Marines in the assault. The raid fails within hours. Brown hangs for treason. Lee writes, "The blacks are immeasurably better off here than in Africa, morally and socially." His worldview hardens into concrete certainty. Slavery, he believes, civilizes inferior people gradually. Only God's mysterious timeline matters for emancipation, not human law or morality. This isn't unusual for Virginia aristocrats then, but Lee carries this belief into the approaching storm. It shapes every choice ahead, fatally. November 1860. Abraham Lincoln wins presidency without a single Southern vote. South Carolina secedes immediately. Then Mississippi, Florida, Alabama follow quickly. The Union fractures like ice. Lee watches with growing dread and terror. His loyalty belongs to Virginia first, America second. He prays Virginia stays neutral. Prayer won't be enough now. April 1861. Confederates fire on Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor. Lincoln calls for 75,000 troops to suppress rebellion. Virginia must choose Union or Confederacy, past or future. Lee paces Arlington's halls all night. His wife watches him age overnight from stress. He loves the Union, but cannot fight his homeland. Francis Preston Blair visits Arlington carrying Lincoln's offer. Command of Union armies, the president's personal choice. Crush the rebellion, save the nation. Lead 100,000 men into battle. It's everything Lee wanted his entire life. Command, glory, immortal purpose. He asks for time to consider carefully. One night to decide history's course. Lee walks Arlington's grounds alone under stars, 40 years of faithful service to America behind him. His father fought for independence from tyranny. He fought for America in Mexico victoriously. But Virginia is family, blood, home, graves. He cannot raise his sword against his son's graves, his mother's sacred memory, his ancestors' bones. April 20th. Lee writes his resignation letter carefully. Save in defense of my native state, I never desire again to draw my sword against fellow citizens. He chooses Virginia over the Union deliberately. Some call it honor. Others call it treason plainly. Lee calls it obligation fulfilled. The war begins now. Virginia offers him command of state forces immediately. No military experience as an army commander. Never led more than 100 men before. Now he must build an army from nothing overnight. Farmers become soldiers. Hunting rifles become military weapons. Lee becomes a general by pure necessity and circumstance. Would you have felt terror that first night? 40,000 men under your command. Most have never fired a rifle in anger. The Union possesses factories, railroads, wealth beyond measure. The Confederacy has cotton and courage alone. How can this possibly succeed? Does Lee know the outcome? Summer 1861. First Battle of Bull Run erupts. Lee doesn't participate. He's organizing Western Virginia defenses poorly. Union forces retreat in chaotic confusion. Confederates celebrate their easy victory loudly. But Lee sees the truth others miss. This war won't end quickly at all. Both sides bleed freely. Neither surrenders. Years of horror await America. His first campaigns fail miserably. Western Virginia lost. Coastal defenses crumble under assault. Richmond newspapers mock Granny Lee. Too cautious, too slow, too scared. President Davis sends him to supervise fortifications like a common engineer. It's a demotion disguised as reassignment. Lee accepts silently without complaint. The perfect soldier never protests publicly. June 1862. General Joseph Johnston falls wounded at Seven Pines. Davis needs a replacement for the Army of Northern Virginia desperately. Every other choice seems worse somehow. He selects Lee, not because he's proven successful, but because he's available and loyal. Lee inherits 60,000 men, facing 90,000 Union troops advancing. 7 days battles. Lee attacks immediately with fury. McClellan retreats despite superior numbers and position. 20,000 Confederate casualties, killed, wounded, or captured. 16,000 Union casualties litter the field. Lee wins strategically, but bleeds his army dangerously. A pattern emerges: aggressive tactics, horrific losses, victories that cost too much blood. August 1862, Second Bull Run. Lee divides his army, a massive, reckless risk. Stonewall Jackson flanks Pope's forces brilliantly. Pope retreats in disorder. Lee combines aggression with deception masterfully. His subordinates learn quickly. Lee gambles constantly with their lives, sometimes brilliantly, sometimes disastrously. He never plays it safe. A Confederate soldier wrote home, "General Lee sent us around the flank. We marched 30 miles in darkness. Many collapsed from exhaustion. Then we attacked. We won. But I watched friends die for this victory. Does Lee count the cost, or only the glory won?" September 1862. Lee invades Maryland boldly. He believes Marylanders will join the Confederacy enthusiastically. They don't join. A Union soldier finds Lee's battle plans wrapped around cigars carelessly. McClellan knows everything now. Antietam becomes the war's bloodiest single day. 23,000 casualties total. Lee barely escapes destruction. Is this genius or recklessness? Lee invaded with barely 40,000 exhausted men. He stayed and fought despite being outnumbered badly. He nearly lost everything in one day, yet he escaped intact somehow. His reputation grows even in defeat. The legend begins to overshadow reality. December 1862, Fredericksburg. Union forces attack Confederate positions suicidally. Lee watches from Marye's Heights as waves of blue uniforms fall like wheat. "It is well that war is so terrible, lest we grow too fond of it," he says quietly. 13,000 Union casualties. The assault was disastrous. Lee loses only 4,000 men. Victory comes cheaply for once. Spring 1863, Chancellorsville, Lee's acknowledged masterpiece. He divides his army again recklessly. Jackson flanks Hooker's forces perfectly. The Union retreats in confusion and panic. Lee wins his greatest tactical victory. But Stonewall Jackson dies from friendly fire accidentally. Lee loses his most trusted commander. The cost haunts him nightly. "I have lost my right arm," Lee writes in anguish. Jackson's death creates a void no one fills adequately. Lee must now make all decisions alone. The burden multiplies exponentially. He promotes younger generals, Ewell, Hill. They lack Jackson's instinct and genius. Lee's army becomes less effective immediately and permanently. June 1863. Lee invades Pennsylvania aggressively. He believes one major victory on Northern soil will end the war immediately. Davis agrees enthusiastically. The army marches north, 75,000 men total. Supplies run dangerously low. Cavalry scouts fail repeatedly. Lee enters hostile territory. Half blind and vulnerable, everything depends on surprise and luck. July 1st, Gettysburg. Lee's forces stumble into Union troops accidentally. Neither side planned to fight here. The battle escalates rapidly and violently. Lee concentrates his army slowly. Meade fortifies the high ground quickly. Lee attacks uphill against superior defensive positions. The trap closes around him. He doesn't recognize it yet. July 2nd, Lee orders attacks on both Union flanks simultaneously. Longstreet objects strongly. He wants to flank around Gettysburg entirely and avoid direct assault. Lee refuses stubbornly. "The enemy is there, and I am going to strike him hard." Stubbornness replaces strategy fatally. Thousands die, gaining nothing meaningful. Lee won't retreat now. July 3rd, Pickett's charge. Lee orders 15,000 men to cross open ground toward Union center positions. Artillery prepares the way with bombardment. Then silence falls. The Confederates advance bravely. Union guns open fire with devastating effect. Men fall in waves. The charge collapses. Lee's army breaks permanently at Gettysburg. Lee meets survivors riding back through carnage. "All this has been my fault alone," he tells them in anguish. It's the only time he admits error publicly. Nearly 7,000 casualties in one terrible hour. The invasion fails utterly. Lee retreats southward. The Confederacy never recovers strength. Gettysburg marks the turning point. What happened to Lee's judgment here? Exhaustion, pride, desperation? Historians debate endlessly without resolution. Perhaps he believed his own legend, that aggressive tactics succeed eventually. Perhaps losing Jackson destroyed his caution. Perhaps he simply gambled everything and lost. We'll never know for certain. A Pennsylvanian woman watched from her farmhouse. They came across the field in perfect lines, so brave, so doomed. Our guns cut them down, bodies piled high. I wept for them despite everything. Lee sent them to die, for what? For nothing at all. Fall 1863. Lee offers resignation to Davis formally. "I am becoming too old for field duty now," he writes honestly. He's 56, but looks 70 easily. Heart disease weakens him daily. Rheumatism cripples his hands painfully. Davis refuses the resignation absolutely. No replacement exists anywhere. Lee continues despite failing health. Spring 1864. Grant takes command of Union armies finally. A new kind of opponent emerges. Grant doesn't retreat after losing battles like predecessors. He attacks constantly, accepting massive casualties without hesitation. Lee wins tactical victories, Wilderness, Spotsylvania, but Grant keeps advancing relentlessly. The mathematics of attrition begin working against the Confederacy. Lee's army shrinks daily through death and desertion. Desertion increases as the Confederacy collapses economically. Food runs desperately short. Uniforms become rags and tatters. Boys and old men. They replace dead veterans. Lee writes Davis, "We need more men immediately." None arrive. The Confederacy has nothing left to give him. Who was Lee beyond the uniform and legend? His soldiers called him Marse Robert, part master, part father figure. He rarely punished infractions personally. A stern look sufficed. Men would walk through fire for his approval. But did they truly know him? Did anyone know him fully? Lee wrote constantly, to his wife, children, subordinates daily. His letters reveal unexpected warmth beneath the stone exterior. He worried about his daughter's cough, his son's education. He sent Mary flowers when possible. The public facade had private affection. Two men existed in one body somehow. His wife, Mary, became wheelchair-bound from crippling arthritis. Lee couldn't visit often during war years. She fled Arlington when Union troops seized it permanently. They never returned together again. The estate became a cemetery, Arlington National Cemetery. Their home became a monument to Union dead. Irony completed perfectly. Lee loved his children deeply, but remained distant. War separated them constantly. Responsibility consumed him entirely. 3 sons served as Confederate officers. He ordered them into danger without hesitation or favoritism. Love and obligation never conflicted in his mind. Obligation won each time. He hated slavery morally, but defended it politically and economically. He freed his inherited slaves, eventually, after delaying repeatedly for years. He opposed secession, but led the rebellion. He loved the Union, but destroyed it. These contradictions defined him. We want consistency. Lee embodied paradox. His Episcopal faith never wavered. Services every Sunday when possible. Daily prayer without fail.
If your birthday is this month, make sure to subscribe and leave a like, my friend. And tell me in the comments what topic you'd like to hear next.
He believed God controlled history's outcome. Whatever happened was divine will predetermined. This faith sustained him through catastrophe. It also absolved responsibility conveniently. God decided, not Lee. He merely obeyed. Colleagues described him as courteous, reserved, controlled. He never swore once, never lost his temper publicly, never revealed doubt to subordinates. The mask stayed on constantly. One officer noted, "I served under Lee for 3 years. I never knew what he truly thought about anything." But photographs show exhaustion clearly. Compare 1861 Lee to 1865 Lee. The difference stuns viewers. He aged 20 years and 4. Gray hair turned white. His face gaunt, drawn, haunted. Heart disease and stress destroyed him physically. The cost of command carved itself into his actual flesh. He enjoyed simple pleasures when possible, riding his horse traveler, playing with children, discussing theology. But war consumed everything meaningful. Years passed without joy or rest. He wrote Mary, "I'm tired of war. Its glory is all moonshine and illusion." Disillusionment arrived too late to matter. Lee fought for a cause he privately doubted. He opposed secession. Initially, he thought slavery morally wrong, yet he led armies defending both institutions. Why? Honor, responsibility, pride. Perhaps he couldn't admit Virginia made a mistake without admitting he had too. April 1865. Richmond falls to Union forces. Lee evacuates west toward Lynchburg desperately. His army disintegrates hourly. Men desert by thousands daily. No food arrives anywhere. No ammunition supplies them. Grant pursues relentlessly without rest. Union cavalry blocks escape routes. The trap closes with mathematical certainty. Lee cannot escape fate. April 7th. Grant sends a note. The result of the last week must convince you of the hopelessness of further resistance now. Lee reads it twice slowly. He knows Grant is right, but surrendering means admitting defeat publicly. His armor must crack. The performance must end. Lee's officers suggest guerrilla warfare desperately. Scatter the army, fight for mountains and forests, bleed the Union for years ahead. Lee refuses. We would become mere bands of marauders and thieves. He won't sacrifice the South's future for his pride. One wise choice amid countless tragedies. April 9th, Palm Sunday. Appomattox Courthouse. Lee wears his finest uniform, dress sword, red silk sash, polished boots perfectly. If he must surrender, he'll do it with dignity and tact. Appearance matters most. The performance must continue. The stone general approaches Grant's humble headquarters. Grant arrives in muddy field uniform, no sword visible. The contrast is deliberate and symbolic. Lee represents Old South aristocracy dying. Grant represents Northern industrial power rising. They shake hands formally. Lee is taller, more imposing physically. Grant holds all the power. The irony isn't lost on either man. The surrender terms surprise everyone present. Grant is generous. Officers keep sidearms. Soldiers return home. No treason trials promised. Lee's men can keep horses for spring planting. It's reconciliation, not revenge enacted. Lee signs the documents carefully. His hand shakes visibly. 28,000 Confederates surrender immediately. Lee rides back through his army slowly. Men weep openly without shame. They reach to touch Traveler lovingly. "We'll fight again, General!" they shout desperately. Lee's voice breaks. "Men, we have fought through the war together. I have done the best I could for you." That night, Lee writes his final order carefully. General Order Number 9. After 4 years of arduous service, the Army of Northern Virginia has been compelled to yield to overwhelming numbers and resources. Not defeat, yielding, not failure, overwhelming odds. He reframes history immediately. The lost cause begins. The lost cause myth begins that day exactly. Lee wasn't defeated. He was outnumbered unfairly. The Confederacy didn't lose. It yielded to industrial might. Slavery wasn't the cause. It was states' rights. Lee becomes the myth's central figure immediately. The perfect soldier becomes marble monument. Truth dies first. May 1865. Lee returns to Richmond quietly. His wife lives in borrowed rooms humbly. Arlington is gone, forever confiscated. He owns nothing left. No property, no income, no future prospects. He's 58, broken, exhausted. Soldiers want him for president. He refuses. He wants peace. Just peace, finally. Federal authorities debate trying Lee for treason actively. Hang the rebel generals. Make examples. Lincoln opposed this before his death. Grant threatens to resign if Lee is prosecuted. The trial never happens, fortunately. Lee remains free but stripped of citizenship, unable to vote. What does a failed general do? How does Stone become human? Lee must reinvent himself. Washington College in Lexington, Virginia, offers him presidency. The salary is modest, $1,500 yearly. He accepts gratefully. Education becomes his new calling. Perhaps his final redemption possible. He transforms the college remarkably. Enrollment quadruples within years. He adds practical courses, business, journalism, engineering. He tells students, "We have but one rule here, that every student be a gentleman." He enforces reconciliation strictly. Any student speaking against Union loyalty must leave immediately. In 1865, Lee applies for presidential pardon. He wants citizenship restored desperately. The paperwork disappears, deliberately hidden by a federal official with a grudge. Lee dies without citizenship. It's not restored until 1975, 105 years later. His posthumous rehabilitation takes longer than his life itself. September 1870. A board meeting at Washington College. Lee collapses suddenly, another stroke. He's carried home carefully. Doctors can do nothing helpful. He lies in bed, unable to speak clearly. His family gathers around. The end approaches finally. The stone shatters into pieces. October 12th, 1870. Lee dies at 63. His last words are debated endlessly. Some report strike the tent, his final command. Others claim he simply said, "Tell Hill he must come up." Even in death, controversy surrounds him permanently. The myth overtakes the man. Thousands attend his funeral. Former soldiers walk hundreds of miles. They remember the general who led them, not the cause he served. Veterans weep publicly without shame. The South mourns its greatest symbol. But here's the question. Do they mourn the man or the legend created? Washington College renames itself Washington and Lee University immediately. His tomb becomes a shrine. Visitors come daily even now. Fresh flowers appear constantly from unknown sources. People leave notes, Confederate flags, coins. The pilgrimage continues 155 years later. Memory refuses to die. Lee's reputation grows after death dramatically. Books portray him as a tragic hero, noble, brilliant, doomed by circumstance. The Lost Cause. Movement adopts him as saint-like figure. He opposed slavery, supposedly. He only fought for Virginia. He would have freed the slaves himself. These lies become accepted history quickly. The 20th century erects hundreds of Lee monuments. Courthouses, schools, parks, highways bear his name proudly. His likeness carved into Stone Mountain permanently. Statues dominate town squares across the South. He becomes Confederate mythology personified in stone and bronze. But truth resists mythology stubbornly. Historians examine the records carefully. Lee owned slaves. He fought to preserve slavery. He commanded armies defending an evil system. His military genius was overrated. He lost the war through aggressive tactics that bled his army dry. Facts challenge legends eventually. Modern America debates his legacy fiercely. Protesters topple monuments in 2020. Defenders claim history is erased. Schools renamed. Statues removed from public squares. Lee becomes a culture war symbol again, 150 years after death. He divides Americans still. Here's what we know for certain. Lee was brilliant tactically, but strategically flawed. He inspired loyalty, but served an immoral cause. He showed personal courage, but public cowardice on slavery. He was more complex than either admirers or critics admit. That's uncomfortable truth. His military legacy influences West Point still. Officers study Chancellorsville, debate Gettysburg. His aggressive tactics inspire some, caution others. But his political choices, indefensible. Leading rebellion against the United States remains treason, regardless of motivation. Law is clear, morality is clear. Most of his daughters never married. The scandal of bearing Lee's name proved too much socially. His sons tried business, failed mostly. The Lee name carried weight, but not fortune. Reputation couldn't be converted to currency. The family scattered, struggling to escape his shadow. Arlington, his lost home, became America's most sacred cemetery. 400,000 graves now. The house he couldn't save became a memorial to those who fought against him. Union soldiers rest eternally on his front lawn. History chose the most perfect punishment imaginable. Should we remember Robert E. Lee? Yes. Should we honor him? History demands we remember even uncomfortable truths. Lee represents America's original sin, slavery, and the war to end it. He's a mirror showing our contradictions. What we see depends on who we are. Return to that moment. April 1865. A gray uniformed general signs surrender papers. His choice is made. But think backward. Every decision led here. Accepting slavery's continuation, choosing Virginia over Union, invading Pennsylvania, ordering Pickett's charge. The path was chosen incrementally, not suddenly. Lee believed he followed his calling, but obligation to whom? His state, his social class, his family legacy. He never questioned if Virginia could be wrong. If aristocracy deserved preserving. If the Union mattered more than tradition. Unexamined responsibility becomes blind obedience. 600,000 Americans died, more than all other American wars combined until Vietnam. Lee's choices contributed directly. Not solely, Lincoln, Davis, countless others share responsibility. But Lee commanded armies that killed hundreds of thousands defending slavery. That's his legacy first and foremost. Yet men loved him. Soldiers followed him willingly to death. Students respected him. Colleagues admired him. He showed personal kindness while defending institutional evil. How do we reconcile this? The question haunts American history. Good people serving bad causes everywhere. Robert Edward Lee, brilliant general, devoted family man, loyal Virginian, rebel commander, enslaver, symbol. He almost changed America by tearing it apart. Instead, his failure ensured America's survival. Sometimes history's greatest gift is that the wrong side lost. Remember that. Never forget that.